I never imagined the last thing my father would ever say to me was something I wasn't supposed to hear. It was a voicemail, time-stamped 2 hours before the paramedics found him. His voice was shaky, like he was fighting the clock. He said my name twice, and then Emily. Please don't. The message cut off right there. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence. And all these months later, I still replay it, wondering what he was trying to save me from. Or worse, what he was finally ready to admit. Hi, I'm Emily Parker, and if you've ever lost someone with more unfinished conversations than memories, then you probably understand the heaviness that never completely leaves. My dad wasn't a perfect man, but he was my anchor growing up. He taught me how to fix a loose cabinet hinge, how to check the oil in my car, and how to tell when someone was lying simply by the way they held their shoulders. But life changed after Mom died. He withdrew in ways I didn't have the maturity to understand back then. I was 19, angry, grieving, and convinced he didn't care. I hadn't spoken to him for 3 months before he passed. 3 months of stubborn pride, and that voicemail, his unfinished sentence, became the only bridge between us. The morning after the funeral, I sat in his house, the one that always smelled faintly like cedar and leftover coffee. Everything felt too still, too untouched, like he'd stepped out for groceries and just never made it back. I kept telling myself I was only there to pack things up, but the truth was I was avoiding one drawer. His nightstand drawer, the one he always locked, the one he'd once scolded me for opening when I was 11. I remembered that moment so clearly. He had snatched the drawer shut with a panic I didn't understand, and for a split second I saw something in his eyes, a fear I'd never seen in him before. I tried to pretend it was nothing, just old secrets, bills, private stuff. But that memory kept coming back, and suddenly the drawer didn't feel like just a drawer anymore, especially not after that voicemail. I kept replaying it, hoping I'd missed a word. A clue? Anything. Emily, please don't. Please don't what? Come home? Forgive him? Find something? The message ended so abruptly it felt intentional, like he stopped himself, or like someone or something stopped him. My aunt told me he'd grown distant these past years, more jumpy, more paranoid. He'd shred every letter that came in the mail. He'd unplug his landline. He even stopped celebrating Christmas, something he used to make such a big deal about when I was little. I kept brushing it off as grief. But a part of me, a part I didn't want to acknowledge, wondered if there was more. Something he hid, something he never got to tell me. And that drawer felt like the only place left where the truth could still be hiding. I finally did it on the third day. I stood by his nightstand with the key in my hand, a tiny brass key taped to the bottom of his desk drawer, as if he wanted me to find it, but only after he was gone. My stomach twisted as the lock clicked open. Inside weren't the things I expected. No bills, no personal journals, no photographs of Mom. Just a single envelope, yellowed, old. My name written on the front in a handwriting that didn't quite look like his. It was shaky, almost scared. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened it. Inside was one sentence. Emily deserves to know. That was it. No signature, no explanation. I felt my throat tightening, not with sadness, but with anger. Cold, sharp anger I hadn't felt since I was 19. I heard myself whisper, "Know what, Dad?" And suddenly, all those old memories I'd buried came climbing back. Like the night he didn't come home until midnight, smelling like mud and rain, refusing to tell me where he'd been. Or the time he freaked out because I answered a blocked phone call. Or how he'd startle whenever a car slowed down near our house. I'd written it off as stress back then. But now, it felt like pieces of a puzzle I'd never understood were finally rattling awake. I slammed the drawer shut. Why wouldn't you just tell me? My voice echoed in the empty house, and all I could think was, if he'd been hiding something all these years, then what exactly was he trying to warn me about in that voicemail? I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there on my father's old couch, listening to the house settle, and to every memory I had of him rearranging itself into something that finally made sense, and yet didn't. By morning, I knew I had to go through everything, every box, every folder, every corner of that house. Around noon, I found something wedged behind his water heater. A metal tin. Old, scratched, like he'd shoved it there in a hurry. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to me, some dated as far back as 12 years ago. My heart stopped. I opened one at random. It was his handwriting. But the tone, the fear, the guilt, none of it felt like the father I remembered. The first line hit me like a punch. I've tried to protect you from the truth, but it keeps finding us. My hands trembled. The next letter was worse. If something happens to me, don't believe anyone who tells you I left by choice. My breath caught. And then I found the last letter he ever wrote. The one dated just 3 days before he died. I recognized the shaky handwriting from the envelope in his drawer. It said, "Emily, I didn't lose your mother. I failed her, and now it's coming back." I froze. For a moment, the room felt too small, like the walls were closing in. I read the last lines over and over. I wasn't supposed to find out what happened the night she died, but I did, and they warned me to stay quiet. I thought I could outrun it. I thought keeping you away from me would keep you safe. I was wrong. My knees gave out and I slid to the floor, because suddenly Mom's car accident didn't feel like an accident anymore. And Dad's paranoia, his fear, the way he changed after she died, it all looked painfully, horrifyingly different. I grabbed my phone and replayed the voicemail again, hoping I had misunderstood. "Emily, please don't what? Please don't come home? Please don't look for the truth? Please don't dig any deeper?" For the first time, I realized that maybe the message didn't cut off accidentally. Maybe he stopped on purpose. Maybe he didn't want me to hear the rest. Because maybe the rest would destroy everything I thought I knew about my parents. That afternoon, I drove to the police station with the letters in my bag. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I handed them to a detective, a tired-looking man named Detective Harris. He read the first 2 pages, and his face changed. Not confused, not surprised, resigned, like he'd seen this before. He asked me a few quiet questions about Dad, about Mom's accident, about the voicemail. When he finished, he closed the file gently and said, "Emily, I can't reopen a case this old without evidence stronger than this. But your father? He was right to be afraid." Something in his voice told me what he couldn't say aloud. Something had happened, something real, something dark. And whatever it was, my father took the rest of it with him. I walked out of the station feeling heavier than when I went in. There was no big revelation, no justice, no closure. Just a truth that was too foggy to hold and too sharp to ignore. That night, I sat on my porch with all his letters on my lap, and I realized something I never wanted to admit. I would never know what my father tried to say in that voicemail. Not fully, not completely. Some stories stay unfinished, some warnings come too late, and some messages, the ones that matter most, never reach the person they were meant for. It's been months now. I still keep the letters in a box under my bed. Not because they give me answers, but because they remind me I wasn't as forgotten as I once believed. Sometimes I replay the voicemail, not to torture myself, but to hear the way he said my name. Soft, urgent, like he loved me more than he knew how to show. I don't know what my father was trying to protect me from. I don't know what truth he found. I don't know if I'll ever know, but I do know this. Silence doesn't heal anything. Distance doesn't protect anyone. And the moments we avoid, they become the moments we regret the most. If you see yourself somewhere in this story, feel free to share your heart below. You never know. Your words might be the message someone else has been waiting years to hear. If this story touched something in you, just know you're not alone. Life leaves all of us with unfinished conversations. But here on this channel, your story, your voice, your heart always matters. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.